You know, I have a serious sense of deja vu right now. What's going on, everybody? It's Joe coming at you with a brand new video. So, I'm assuming most of you are aware that just a few days ago, I uploaded a Bird Up deck profile for the November 2022 format, and Konami seemed to take that personally, so of course, what better way to spite me than to release a brand new Forbidden and Limited list immediately after, completely invalidating the profile. But hey, at least instead of doing so in a bad way, it was for the better, and I think that now Bird Up has gone from a fun deck that you could try this format to an actual competitive threat with these new changes. I actually just posted a combo tutorial showcasing some of the better combos you could do with the deck post-list just a day ago, as of recording this, which you should totally check out if you somehow haven't, and I mentioned that if the video hit 100 likes, I would update the deck profile, and, well, it would be an understatement to say you all crushed that goal. And so here I am ready to explain everything else yet again, but anyways, I don't want to waste any more of your time. Let's go ahead and get into my updated Bird Up deck profile post-December 2022 Forbidden and Limited list. Starting off, of course, with our Lyrilusc monsters, we have 3 copies of Lyrilusc Turquoise Warbler, 3 copies of Lyrilusc Cobalt Sparrow, 2 copies of Lyrilusc Celestine Wagtail, 2 copies of Lyrilusc Sapphire Swallow, and 2 copies of Lyrilusc Beryl Canary. So I'm still sticking with this ratio, and I think that now, more than ever, having a large amount of birds in your main deck is actually really helpful because you now have the second recital for it to actually be worthwhile after you go through your Xyz plays. So I think playing the large amount is very respectable for once, compared to like when people used to always flame me for playing this many. But yeah, so I did mention that if Tanky went to 3, I'd probably end up trying Cobalt at 2. And I did, and I really didn't like it because with Recital at 2, again, you really want the extra birds, and when I thought Tanky was going to come to 3, I thought it would just be Tanky to 3. And so, yeah, I really just like the larger amount of birds, and I think they do come up a lot. Onto the Tri-Brigade package, I don't think anything here has changed since the last list. We have 3 copies, of Tri-Brigade Fractal, 3 copies of Tri-Brigade Nerval, 2 copies of Tri-Brigade Kit, and 2 copies of Tri-Brigade Karis. Again, I do want to max out, obviously, on Fractal and Nerval, but I also want to have a higher ratio of Kits and Karises due to the Ishizu cards milling the top of my deck, and I just like having the extra resources in general. The second Karis is also just really good in general for when you get hit by things like Dragostapelia, when you're going, not going second, sorry, but when you're on turn 3, say your opponent manages to break your board and sets up the Dragostapelia, well, you can actually go for the Fractal, normal summon it, activate the effect to banish 3, your opponent changed Dragostapelia, you activate the effect of Fractal, sending it to the grave for cost, it'll no longer have the counter on it, so then you can dump your Nerval add Karis, and then you use another Beast Warrior or Wing Beast in your hand for the Karis fodder to special it, and then you banish 3 again and go for your Axis Code play anyway. The heavier Tri-Brigade ratio can be kind of annoying overall because you'd rather have extenders, but most of the time, they're just cards that you really want to see. Onto the miscellaneous Beast Warriors and Wing Beasts. I have 3 copies of DD Crow this time, and 1 copy of the Fabled Cerberus. So I am on more, one second, let me adjust it, you don't want to see that nasty common, do you? But I'm playing more board breakers instead of hand traps this time, and I am playing more copies of DD Crow. I was on like 2 because I was playing 2 of every other hand trap, but because this is my only hand trap in the deck, and you can search a bunch of copies now off the multiple recitals, well, you can just play 3 very comfortably. Also, Fabled Cerberus is still here for the Arclight, of course, and you'll probably notice that compared to the last list, I am no longer main decking the Neko Main King. I feel like it's more of a side deck card, honestly, with the second recital. I feel like the deck is a little bit more combo-y and a little less mid-rangey, even if it's not by very much. So I feel like just cutting the Neko Main Kings and relegating them to the side for the Ishizu tier matchup is a lot less bricky, and still lets you do pull off the fun plays that Neko Main King allows. Moving on to the back row, we have 3 copies of Lyrilusc Bird Call, and for the first time ever, 3 copies of Fire Formation Tanky. At least the first time in, like, literally ever for Bird Up, I believe. I think it was at 1 when Bird Up was relevant. But wow, this feels really nice to say. Unfortunately, drawing multiple Tenki is still a big problem and is even more relevant now that you have a bunch of copies, but having more copies of Fractal in your hand when Fractal and any Beast Beast Warrior or Wing Beast gets you a nice combo is really nice to have, and it's just good to have 3 of each searching spell now. For the power 1-ofs, as always, we have the 1 Foolish, the 1 1-for-1, and the 1 Called By. Foolish is Foolish, 1-for-1 is Insane, Called By is Called By, not much to explain there. And as I stated before, I am on more board breakers than I am on hand traps, and so I am playing currently 2 copies of Triple Tactics Talent, 2 copies of Lightning Storm, and 3 copies of Evenly Matched. So I think this deck really excels with board breakers, not just because it can make a fat Zeus and like OTK really well, but also because, like, obviously if you lose the die roll you want to have some going second plays, but also because when you're going first, because you still want to go first, like you're playing all of these going second cards, but I still feel like I want to go first, because you can always just draw your easy 2 card combos, and then you can just put these back off of your Farragut and your Bearbrum to access new cards for like either follow-up or for extenders or anything like that, especially when it comes to Farragut. And so it's really not that clunky to play these, especially Triple Tactics Talent, because I think this is one of the better decks to use Triple T, because you can use this, of course, when you're going first or going second, as long as your opponent has monster effects to activate, and just drawing into more extenders off the Triple T is insanely strong. See, I think board breakers, even when you're trying to go first, are really strong in this deck in particular, especially because hand traps usually just don't seem to do enough, especially in a format where a Shizu tier is a deck. And finally, to finish off the main deck, we have the 1 copy of Tri-Brigade Revolt. Revolt is Revolt, it's insanely good for your follow-up and for getting a non-target banish that also protects your Arclight. So again, that does it for the main deck. Let's go ahead and get onto the extra deck, starting off with 2 copies of Lyrilusc Recital Starling. Yippee! That feels so good to say. I haven't said 2 copies of Recital in my actual deck profile in literally almost a year now, which is kind of crazy, and this just makes the deck so much better. Like, admittedly, I'm not going to be on the Utopic Draco Future package. I think that it's not very worth it right now. I explain more in the combo video. If, again, you haven't seen that, go ahead and check it out. But I feel like going for the Arclight is just better. And so, even though I'm not playing the Utopic Draco Future, sorry, there's something on my limited edition Aurora YGO playmat, but I feel like just using these for the Farragut after getting all your combo pieces is fine, and also just having your Recital at 2 is so good for the funny OTKs, because remember, Recital also has an effect that says your opponent also takes all the damage that you take from battles involving it, and that does, for most judges, apply when you activate the effect of Assembled Nightingale to make you not take damage, so your opponent will and you won't. So you can just crash into like a 3500 Kaleido Heart or something twice, and then poke directly with the Assembled for game. It is so good. But yeah, this just makes the bird package so much stronger, especially when it comes to accessing your DD Crows and your Barrel Canaries, and I just love having the multiple copies of Recital. And for the rest of our XCs, I'm just going to push this over to the side. We have the 1 copy of Assembled Nightingale, the 1 copy of Downward Magician, and the 1 copy of Divine Arsenal AA Zeus Sky Thunder. So again, I am not on Ensemble. I did have to cut the Lightheart that I cut for the, so I was playing Ensemble. I cut it for Lightheart in the last deck profile, and then now I had to cut the Lightheart for the 2nd copy of Recital. Because my extra deck is just so tight. But I feel like this is all you really need anyway. Ensemble is just kind of alright right now. And also your end, it's usually a win more card or a card for when your hand is already just terrible. But Assembled into Zeus is really all you need other than the Recitals. Even though Zeus is kind of against the Shizu tier, it's insanely strong against literally any other deck right now, and will single-handedly win you games when you have 4 to 6 materials on it. Onto the Link monsters, we have the 1 copy of Salamangreat Almirage. Again, no Lightheart anymore. Almirage is really all you need. I heard some people actually asking me why Almirage, because they felt it was too situational. Well, if you open Kit and then like a bunch of BBWs that do absolutely nothing, or Nerval and the same thing, then you can at least do plays, and you can usually end on Apo Revolt, which is really nice. Otherwise, you're screwed. So Almirage is way too good for those bricky situations not to play. We also have the 1 copy of Ancient Warrior Oath Double Dragon Lords. Double Dragon Lords is Double Dragon Lords, not much to say there. Outs Barrier Statue, protects your Arclight, does a bunch of bouncing, really good card. We have the 1 copy of Farragut and 1 copy of Bearbrum. These are your Resident Tri-Brigade Link 2 monsters. Again, not much to say there. 1 copy of Hrsvelgr, the Desperate Doom Eagle. Hrsvelgr is just super good for the Ishizu matchup, as well as anything that really needs the monsters in its graveyard. Not to mention, it is your main Link 3 that you're going to be going into for access code. Also, it is insanely good against Flunder because you banish 3, summon this under Barrier Statue, and because 9 times out of 10, unless they have a Shifter engrave that you can shuffle back, they're not going to have any monsters engraved, so you can just have this at 4,800 and just punch over everything. Also, with the increased amount of birds, you can actually hard make this frequently, which is really funny. We also have the 2 copies of Shurig the Ominous Omen, 1 for Revolt, 1 for your combo, pretty standard there. Shurig is an insanely good boss monster, especially in a format where people are trying to set up things with protection. 1 copy of Appaloosa and 1 copy of Access Code Talker will wrap up our Link 4s. Appo is on your end board and a very strong card right now. I feel like it is insanely underrated. And then we have access code for pushing for game. Even if it isn't too great against a Shizu tier if you're trying to break boards with it, it is still really nice for punching directly for 53 or 63. And then finally, the coup de grace of the deck, the 1 copy of Herald of the Arclight. This is the main endboard piece of my list. You're really just going to be trying to protect this, because this is like the main way that you're going to win against a Shizu tier. Because usually if you try to just set up disruptions like with the Utopic Draco Future, they're probably just going to have enough things to get past your board anyway. But if you go for the Arclight, not only do you have an Omni Negate prepared for if they have something like evenly matched, or you can prevent them from using monsters for droplet unless they send from field. You also just have a walking floodgate, so you can just kind of turn off all of their things, and they kind of have to have a bunch of extenders just to get on board, just to deal with this when you have things like Appo, Revolt, and DDL to protect it. Well, everybody, that looks like it's going to do it for my Bird Up deck profile post-December 2022 Forbidden and Limited list. So I know it wasn't as in-depth as my last one. This is more of like an updated one of that, rather than actually going into all the explanations of what every single card does and everything like that. And so I hope you aren't disappointed. I hope everyone that did comment asking over and over for a new list is not disappointed by this. I think that this is a really fun deck to play and can be really scary now that it has the 2nd Recital and the 3rd Tenki, making it even more consistent and resilient. Not to mention with 1 Orange Light, your things like Fractal are going to be resolving a lot more. So I feel like this can genuinely be a threat in the current format. Again, be sure to watch the combo tutorial video if you haven't already, which I'm assuming most of you probably have because a lot of people were asking for this list on the combo tutorial and liking the combo tutorial to get this list, which again, I cannot thank you guys enough. You guys absolutely crushed that goal. I was genuinely stunned when I saw that it hit 1,000 views within like the first 5 hours, I think it was. That was crazy. But yeah, let me know your thoughts on this deck list and the deck in general in the comments below, because that's going to do it for the video. If you liked it, please sure to leave a like, as I'll split this video and the channel into YouTube recommended. And if you like this content, you want to see more like it, like the rest of my Bird Up content, my channel's kind of known for it at this point, then perhaps consider subscribing, because we're on our way to 2,500 subscribers by the end of 2022. We only have a month left to hit that goal, guys, so it would mean a lot if you could go ahead and subscribe. Not to mention, it supports the channel more than anything else, and it is absolutely free. But once again, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. This is Aurora, signing off.